The starship Horizon moved silently through the darkness of space. It was a massive vessel, carrying both humans and Valorians on a diplomatic mission. The two species had only recently made contact, and this joint voyage was meant to build trust between them. Kang Do-yun sat alone in the small medical storage room, checking supplies. He was 28 years old with tired eyes and steady hands. As a combat medic, his job was to save lives. He had been doing this work for 6 years now, ever since his younger sister died from a sickness that doctors could have cured if they had reached her in time. He never wanted anyone else to die like she did, not if he could help it. The Valorians on the ship kept their distance from the humans. They were a proud species with silver skin and violet eyes that seemed to glow in dim light. Their blood was copper-based, giving it a blue-green color, unlike the red iron-based blood of humans. They lived for hundreds of years and considered themselves far superior to the young human race. Most Valorians looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. Interesting, perhaps, but certainly not equals. Princess Yera was different from the others. She was the third daughter of Emperor Solon, sent on this mission as a symbol of goodwill. At 200 years old, she was considered young by her people's standards. She had curious eyes and a gentle voice, and unlike her guards, she did not look at humans with disgust. Do-yun had seen her walking through the corridors sometimes. She always nodded politely at the human crew members, even when her guards frowned at her for doing so. He thought she seemed lonely, surrounded by protectors who treated her like a fragile glass ornament. High Commander Torek was the leader of her guard. He was tall even by Valorian standards, with cold eyes and a permanent scowl. He made no secret of his hatred for humans. To him, they were violent primitives who had barely crawled out of their caves. The idea of sharing a ship with them disgusted him. On the 93rd day of the voyage, everything changed. Do-yun was organizing medical kits when the first alarm sounded. The ship shuddered violently, throwing him against the wall. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. He grabbed his emergency bag and ran toward the sound of screaming. A micrometeorite storm had come out of nowhere. Tiny rocks traveling faster than bullets had torn through the hull in several places. Emergency shields had closed most of the breaches, but one section had been hit badly. The medical bay. Do-hyun arrived to find chaos. The Valorian medical bay was destroyed. Two Valorian physicians lay dead on the floor, their blue-green blood spreading beneath them. Equipment sparked and smoked, and in the center of it all, Princess Yera lay bleeding. A metal fragment had pierced her side. Her silver skin was torn open, and copper-colored blood poured from the wound. Her violet eyes were open but unfocused, her breathing shallow and weak. Torek knelt beside her, shouting orders at his guards. When he saw Do-yun approach, he drew his blade. "Stay back, human," he snarled. "Do not touch her." "She's dying," Do-yun said calmly. "Let me help." "Your primitive medicine cannot help her. You will only make things worse." Do-yun looked past him at the princess. His medical scanner was already in his hand, reading her vital signs. What he saw made his stomach drop. Her blood oxygen levels were crashing. Her hemocyanin, the copper compound that carried oxygen in Valorian blood, was failing. It was a cascade failure, likely triggered by shock and blood loss. She had maybe 20 minutes to live. "She needs blood," Do-yun said. "Where are your blood reserves?" Torek's face twisted with grief and rage. "Destroyed. The storage was in this room, and we cannot synthesize more in time. Our equipment is damaged." Do-yun looked around. The other Valorians were panicking. Some were trying to repair equipment. Others were praying to gods he did not know. None of them knew what to do. He made a decision. "My blood," he said. "I can give her my blood." The room went silent. Every Valorian turned to stare at him as if he had grown a second head. "Impossible," Torek spat. "Human blood is poison to us. Your iron-based hemoglobin would destroy her system. You would kill her faster than the wound." "Maybe," Do-hyun admitted. "But without blood, she dies anyway. At least this gives her a chance." "A chance?" Torek laughed bitterly. "You know nothing of Valorian biology. Our bodies would reject your blood violently. The immune response alone would stop her heart." Dr. Park Yoon-ji pushed through the crowd. She was the ship's xenobiologist, a small woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She had been studying Valorian biology for the entire voyage. He might be right, she said quietly, about the rejection. But there is something we have observed about human blood that we never fully explored. Everyone looked at her. Human blood is remarkably adaptive, she continued. It bonds with foreign cellular structures in ways we do not fully understand. And Do-hyun has O-negative blood, minimal antigens, the lowest chance of rejection. Lowest chance is not no chance, Torek said. No, Yoonji agreed. I estimate maybe 1% success rate, probably less. 1%. Do-hyun looked at the princess. Her breathing was getting weaker. Her silver skin was turning gray. She had minutes left, not hours. 1% is better than 0, he said. He rolled up his sleeve. Set up the transfusion. Torek moved to block him, his blade raised. I will not allow you to contaminate the princess with your filthy human blood. She will die with honor, not as some experiment. Do-hyun met his eyes without fear. She will just die. There is no honor in letting someone bleed out when you could try to save them. For a long moment, neither moved. The only sounds were the sparking equipment and Yira's labored breathing. Then a weak voice spoke. Let him try. Everyone turned. Princess Yira had opened her eyes. They were dim with pain, but her voice was clear. Yira, no, Torek begged. You do not know what you are asking. I am asking to live, she whispered. Let the human try. That is my command. Torek's blade lowered slowly. His face showed the battle raging inside him. Duty against hatred, orders against instinct. Finally, he stepped aside. If she dies because of you, human, he said quietly, I will kill you myself. Do-hyun nodded. Fair enough. He sat down beside the princess and extended his arm. Yoonji worked quickly, setting up the equipment. It was crude work, improvised from damaged supplies, but it would function. Before she inserted the needle, Yira reached out and touched Do-hyun's hand. Her fingers were cold, her grip weak. Why? She asked. Why risk this for me? Your people and mine are strangers. Some would say enemies. Do-hyun looked at her. He saw a young woman, afraid and in pain, fighting to stay alive. He did not see an alien. He did not see a princess. He saw a patient. Everyone deserves a chance to live, he said simply. That is all. She smiled faintly. Then her eyes closed and her hand fell away. Yoonji looked at Do-hyun. Ready? He nodded. The needle went in, and human blood began flowing into an alien princess. Outside the ruined medical bay, the stars watched in silence. They had seen countless species rise and fall across millions of years. They had witnessed wars and miracles, extinctions and evolutions. But they had never seen anything quite like this. The blood flowed slowly through the tube, red as sunset, carrying within it the essence of human life. Do-hyun watched it leave his arm and enter the princess, knowing that each drop could either save her or kill her faster. The medical bay was silent except for the beeping of monitors and the hum of damaged equipment. Everyone watched. Valorian guards stood with their hands on their weapons, ready to strike Do-hyun down the moment something went wrong. Human crew members crowded the doorway, hardly daring to breathe. Dr. Park Yoonji monitored Yira's vital signs on a cracked screen. Her face showed nothing, but Do-hyun could see her hands trembling slightly. First 100 milliliters transferred, she announced quietly. No immediate rejection response. Torek stood closest to the princess, his eyes never leaving her face. He looked like a man watching his world end in slow motion. His loyalty to Yira was absolute, and seeing her life depend on human blood was tearing him apart inside. This is wrong, he muttered. This is all wrong. Would you rather she die? Do-hyun asked without looking at him. Torek did not answer. The minutes stretched on like hours. Do-hyun began to feel lightheaded as more blood left his body. He had given blood before, many times, but never this much in one sitting. His vision blurred at the edges, but he forced himself to stay focused. Then the first alarm sounded. Her temperature is dropping, Yoonji said, her voice tight. Body is going into shock. The Valorians in the room tensed. Torek's hand went to his blade. Wait, Do-hyun said. This could be normal. Her body is adjusting to foreign material. Give it time. How much time? Torek demanded. I do not know. Yira's silver skin had turned pale gray. Her breathing became irregular, sometimes fast, sometimes so slow it nearly stopped. Her body twitched and shuddered as if fighting an invisible enemy. The copper-based blood in her veins was meeting the iron-based blood from Doyun. Two completely different systems, two different ways of carrying oxygen, forced to exist in the same body. By all scientific understanding, they should destroy each other. But human blood was stubborn. Human blood had evolved on a harsh planet, fighting diseases, adapting to poisons, surviving conditions that would kill other species. It did not give up easily. 300 milliliters, Yunji reported. Her immune system is activating. White blood cell count is rising rapidly. That means rejection, one of the Valorian guards said. Her body is attacking the human blood. Stop this now. No, Yunji said firmly. Wait, look at this. She pointed to the screen. The white blood cell count was rising, yes, but then it was stabilizing. The human blood cells were not being destroyed. They were being surrounded, examined, and then left alone. Her immune system is confused, Yunji explained. It recognizes the human blood as foreign, but it cannot identify it as a threat. The O-negative type has so few markers that her body does not know what to attack. So it is working? Do-Yun asked. It is not killing her immediately. That is the best I can say. They reached the 400 milliliter mark. Do-Yun swayed in his seat. A human could safely donate about 450 milliliters before it became dangerous. He was approaching that limit. You should stop, Yunji said quietly to him. Any more and you will be at risk. Is it enough? He asked. She looked at Yura's readings. I do not know. Her blood oxygen levels are still critical. She needs more. Do-Yun closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about his sister, dying on a medical table because help arrived too late. He thought about the promise he made at her funeral, to never let anyone die if he could possibly prevent it. Keep going, he said. Do-Yun, you could damage yourself permanently. You could die. Then I die trying. Keep going. Unji hesitated, then nodded. The transfusion continued. At 500 milliliters, Do-Yun could no longer sit up straight. Two human crew members had to hold him in place. His face was pale, his lips dry, his heart racing to compensate for the blood loss. At 600 milliliters, Yura's vital signs suddenly went chaotic. Every alarm in the room screamed at once. Her heart rate spiked to dangerous levels, then dropped to almost nothing. Her body temperature swung wildly up and down. Her muscles locked up, her back arching off the table. She is seizing, Yunji shouted. Hold her down. Do not let her hurt herself. Valorians and humans worked together for the first time, holding the princess as her body convulsed. Torek grabbed her hand and held it tight, his usual cold expression replaced by naked fear. Yura, he called, stay with us. Fight this. You are stronger than this. The seizure lasted for 47 seconds. It felt like 47 years. Then suddenly it stopped. Yura went limp. All the monitors flatlined. Silence fell over the room. Someone began to weep. Torek turned to Do-Yun, his eyes filled with murder. You killed her. You killed my princess. He raised his blade. Do-Yun did not move. He was too weak, too drained, and perhaps too heartbroken to care. Then Unji spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Wait, look. On the monitor, a single heartbeat appeared, then another, then another. Yura's vital signs began climbing back from nothing. Her heart found its rhythm again, stronger than before. Her blood oxygen levels rose steadily. Her temperature stabilized. Impossible, one of the Valorian physicians whispered. This is impossible. But it was happening. The human blood was not just coexisting with her Valorian blood, it was merging with it. The iron-based hemoglobin was bonding with the copper-based hemocyanin, creating something entirely new, a hybrid system that carried oxygen more efficiently than either alone. Her cellular regeneration is accelerating, Yunji reported, her voice filled with wonder. The wound in her side is healing faster than any Valorian on record. Her immune system is not just accepting the human blood, it is using it. Do-Yun stared at the monitors through blurred vision. He could not believe what he was seeing. Against all odds, against all logic, it was working. Torek slowly lowered his blade. His face showed a mixture of emotions too complex to name. Relief, confusion, something that might have been shame. How? He asked quietly. How is this possible? Human biology, Yunji said. We have always known it was adaptive, but we never understood how much. Human blood is not just compatible with Valorian blood, it is enhancing it. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Valorians who had looked at humans with contempt now stared at Do-yun with something new in their eyes. Not respect exactly, but no longer dismissal either. Do-yun barely heard any of it. His vision was fading, his consciousness slipping away. He had given too much blood, pushed his body too far. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Yira's face. Her eyes were still closed, but color was returning to her silver skin. A faint warmth seemed to glow beneath the surface, where before there had only been cold. She was alive. Against every prediction, she was alive. Do-yun smiled and let himself fall into unconsciousness. When he woke up hours later in the human medical bay, the first thing he heard was Yunji's voice. You almost died, you idiot. You gave nearly twice what is safe. He tried to respond, but his mouth was too dry. The princess is alive, Yunji continued, and despite her scolding tone, her eyes were wet. She is stable. More than stable, actually. Something miraculous is happening to her body. The human blood is changing her in ways we do not understand. Do-yun closed his eyes again. He did not need to understand. He only needed to know she was alive. For the first time since his sister died, he felt at peace. 3 days passed after the transfusion. Princess Yira remained unconscious, her body fighting a battle no one could see. The Valorians had moved her to a private chamber, the nicest room remaining on the damaged ship. Guards stood at the door at all hours, and Valorian physicians monitored her constantly. They checked her vital signs every few minutes, whispered nervously among themselves, and prepared the sacred oils used in Valorian death ceremonies. They expected her to die. The human blood was keeping her alive for now, but surely it would fail eventually. Surely her body would reject it soon. But Yira did not die. Instead, she changed. On the second day, the wound in her side closed completely. Not just healed, but disappeared, leaving only smooth silver skin where torn flesh had been. Valorian healing was slow and left scars. This was something else entirely. On the third day, her temperature rose 2 degrees above normal Valorian body heat. At first, the physicians panicked, thinking it was a fever. Then they realized it was stable. Her body was simply running warmer now, like a human body. Her blood changed too. When they took samples, they found something never seen before. Human hemoglobin and Valorian hemocyanin had fused at the molecular level. The copper and iron worked together now, creating a hybrid compound that carried oxygen with remarkable efficiency. Dr. Park Yunji spent every spare moment studying the samples. She barely slept, barely ate. What she was seeing was rewriting everything she knew about xenobiology. It should not be possible, she told Do-hyun on the third morning. He was still weak from blood loss, but insisted on staying informed. The two blood types should destroy each other, but instead they are cooperating. His blood is teaching her blood. Teaching? Do-hyun repeated. Human blood carries information, not just oxygen, but information about survival. Millions of years of evolution, fighting diseases, adapting to threats. All of that is encoded in your blood at a cellular level. And now that information is being shared with her Valorian cells. Do-hyun did not fully understand, but he understood enough. His blood was not poisoning her. It was making her stronger. On the afternoon of the third day, Princess Yira opened her eyes. The physician attending her screamed, not from fear, but from shock. He ran to the door shouting for High Commander Torek. Within minutes, the room was crowded with Valorians. They stared at their princess with a mixture of joy and fear. Yira looked different. Her silver skin still held its natural color, but there was warmth beneath it now, a soft glow that had never been there before. Her violet eyes were the same, but when she turned toward the light, they showed tiny flecks of amber mixed with the purple, like pieces of a sunset caught in her gaze. "Water," she said. Her voice was rough from 3 days without use. Torek himself brought her a cup. His hands were shaking as he held it to her lips. She drank deeply, then looked around the room at all the faces staring at her. "Why do you all look so frightened?" she asked. "We thought you would die, Princess," Torek said quietly. "We prepared for your death." "Well, I did not die." She pushed herself up to a sitting position. The movement was smooth, easy, without the trembling weakness she should have felt after such a long unconsciousness. "I feel strange, different, but alive." She held up her hand and examined it. Her fingers moved with new precision. She could feel her own heartbeat, strong and steady. She could hear sounds from outside the room that should have been too faint for Valorian ears. "What happened to me?" she asked. Torek's face darkened. "The human. He gave you his blood." Ira remembered now. The pain, the fear, the feeling of life slipping away. And then a calm voice, a gentle touch, and the strange sensation of something foreign entering her veins. "Where is he?" she asked. "The human who saved me. He is recovering in the human medical bay. He gave too much blood. He nearly killed himself doing it." Yira was silent for a moment. Then she swung her legs off the bed and stood. The physicians rushed forward, trying to push her back down. "Princess, you must rest. Your body has been through enormous stress." "I will rest after I see him." "Your Highness, please. You cannot simply walk around the ship. Your condition is unknown. We do not know what the human blood has done to you." Ira looked at the physician with her new amber-flecked eyes. Something in that gaze made him step back. "I know what it has done," she said quietly. "It has made me stronger than I have ever been. Now take me to him." No one argued again. Ira walked through the corridors of the ship for the first time since the accident. Valorians stopped and stared. Some bowed, some turned away, unable to look at what she had become. She noticed things she had never noticed before. The slight vibration of the ship's engines beneath her feet, the different smells of different sections, recycled air and cooking food and metal and electricity, the sounds of whispered conversations from rooms she passed. Her senses had sharpened. Her body felt lighter, more responsive. When she reached a stairway, she climbed it without effort, without the breathlessness that normally came from such exertion. She was not just alive. She was more alive than she had ever been. The human medical bay was small and crowded compared to Valorian standards. Do-hyun lay on a simple bed, connected to fluids that were restoring what he had lost. He looked pale and thin, dark circles under his closed eyes. He opened them when she entered. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. "You are awake," he said. A small smile touched his lips. "Good. Because of you," she replied. "They tell me you almost died giving me your blood." "Almost is not actually. I am still here." Yira walked closer. The human crew members in the room moved aside, watching with wide eyes. A Valorian princess had never entered their section of the ship before. She sat down in the chair beside his bed. Up close, she could hear his heartbeat, smell the copper tang of the blood substitute flowing into his veins. She could see the tiny movements of his eyes as he examined her, checking her for signs of distress. "Always a medic," she said softly. "Even lying in a hospital bed. You are checking if your patient is healthy." "Old habit." He studied her face. "Your eyes have changed." "Everything has changed," she paused. "I can hear your heart beating. I could not do that before." "Interesting. Side effect of the transfusion, probably. Human senses are different from Valorian." "Different. Stronger." She looked at her hands again. "I feel like I have been sleeping my entire life and only just woken up." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "Human blood carries a lot of history, millions of years of survival. Your body might be accessing some of that now." "Is that what you intended when you gave me your blood?" "I intended to keep you alive. Everything else was luck." Yira smiled. It felt strange on her face, a warmer expression than she usually allowed herself. "Well, your luck has created something new, something that has never existed before." Outside the medical bay, word was spreading. The princess was awake. The princess was changed. The human blood had not killed her. It had transformed her. Some called it a miracle. Others called it an abomination. But everyone agreed on one thing. Nothing would ever be the same. In the Emperor's palace on Valoria Prime, thousands of light years away, The message arrived with footage of Yura walking through the ship. Her father watched in silence as his daughter moved with a grace and strength she had never possessed before. His advisors argued around him. Some demanded she be quarantined. Some demanded the human be executed. Some saw opportunity, while others saw only danger. Emperor Solon said nothing. He simply watched his daughter, looking for traces of the fragile child he remembered. He could not find them. In her place was something new, and he did not know whether to celebrate or mourn. The message from Emperor Solon arrived 7 days after Princess Yura woke from her healing sleep. It was addressed to High Commander Torek, marked with the Imperial Seal, and carried the weight of 1,000 years of Valorian tradition. Torek read it alone in his quarters. Then he read it again. His face showed nothing, but his hands crushed the edges of the communication device until cracks appeared in the screen. He went to find Yura. She was in the observation deck, watching stars slide past the windows. She stood straighter now, held herself differently. The fragile princess who needed constant protection was gone. In her place stood someone who looked like she could protect herself. "My father has responded," she said without turning around. Her new hearing had detected Torek's footsteps long before he entered the room. "What does he command?" Torek hesitated. "The council is divided. Many demand your immediate return for medical examination. Some suggest quarantine until your condition is better understood." "And my father?" "The Emperor has not declared his personal position. He is listening to all sides." Yura turned to face him. The amber flecks in her eyes caught the starlight. "You are not telling me everything. What else did the message say?" Torek's jaw tightened. "There are voices in the council calling for purification." The word hung in the air between them. Purification was an old Valorian practice, rarely used in modern times. It involved removing foreign elements from a contaminated body through extreme medical procedures. The success rate was low. The pain was immense. Many did not survive. "They want to remove the human blood from my body," Yura said flatly. "Some do, yes. Even though it would likely kill me. They believe death would be preferable to contamination." Yura laughed. It was a cold sound, nothing like her old gentle voice. "Contamination. That is what they call survival now." She walked past Torek toward the door. He moved to follow her, but she held up a hand. "Where is the human, Doyun?" "Still in the medical bay. He is recovering, but slowly." "Bring him to me. I want to talk to him." "Princess, I do not think that is wise. The council already views your connection to him with suspicion. Being seen together will only make things worse." Yura stopped and turned. Her eyes met Torek's with an intensity she had never shown before. "That man nearly died to save my life. He gave me his blood when everyone else was preparing my funeral. He did not ask for permission. He did not consider politics. He simply acted because he saw someone dying and could not stand by and watch." She stepped closer to Torek. He was a head taller than her, but somehow she seemed larger now. "I have spent my entire life following rules, being proper, being careful, being the perfect princess who smiles and waves and does what she is told. And where did it get me? Bleeding on a floor while my own people argued about whether it was appropriate to try saving me." "That is not fair," Torek said quietly. "I would have done anything to save you." "I know, and I love you for it. But you could not save me, Torek." "He could. He did. And now I am supposed to pretend that means nothing because he has the wrong color blood?" She shook her head. "Bring him to me. That is not a request." Torek bowed his head. "As you command, princess." An hour later, Dohyun stood in the observation deck, still pale but stronger than before. Yura had dismissed the guards, leaving just the two of them surrounded by stars. "You wanted to see me?" Dohyun asked. "I wanted to warn you," Yura replied. "My people are afraid of what happened, afraid of what I have become. That fear will turn toward you. I expected as much." "You do not seem worried," Dohyun shrugged. "I have been hated before. My species spent most of its history fighting itself. We are used to being misunderstood." Yura studied him. Through her enhanced senses, she could read him more clearly now. His heartbeat was calm. His body temperature was steady. He was telling the truth. He genuinely was not afraid. Why did you really do it? She asked. Save me, I mean. Do not tell me it was just because you are a medic. There must have been more to it than that. Do-yun was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than before. I had a sister, younger than me. Her name was Soman. Had? She died when I was 22. There was a disease outbreak in our colony. Treatable illness, but not enough doctors, not enough medicine. By the time help arrived, she was gone. Yira said nothing. She simply listened. I was there when she died, Do-yun continued. I held her hand. I watched the light leave her eyes. And I could do nothing. I was not trained then. I did not know how to help. He looked out at the stars. After that, I became a medic. I studied everything I could. I trained until my hands could work without my brain thinking. I promised myself that I would never watch someone die without trying everything possible to save them. Even an alien princess who your species barely knows? You were not an alien princess in that moment. You were just someone dying, someone I could help. Yura felt something shift inside her. She had been raised to see humans as primitive, emotional, dangerous. But this man showed her something different. A kind of strength that had nothing to do with technology or age or power. The council wants to remove your blood from my body, she said. They call it purification. Do-yun's calm finally cracked. His eyes widened slightly. That would probably kill you. Yes. Then do not let them do it. It is not that simple. I am a princess, but I am also a subject of the empire. If my father commands it, I must obey. Why? The question surprised her. What do you mean, why? Because that is how things work. That is how they have always worked. Humans have a saying, Do-hyun said. Tradition is just peer pressure from dead people. Yira stared at him. Then, despite everything, she laughed. A real laugh this time, warm and surprised. That is a terrible saying. Maybe, but it is also a little true. She stopped laughing, but the warmth remained. You are very strange, Kang Do-hyun. So I have been told. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Two people from different worlds connected now by blood and choice and circumstance. Finally, Yira spoke again. I am going to send a message to my father. I am going to tell him that I refuse purification, that I choose to live with what I have become, whatever that means. That is brave. Or foolish. The line between them is thin. Usually is, Do-hyun agreed. Yira turned to face him fully. Whatever happens next, I want you to know that I am grateful, not just for saving my life, for showing me that there is more than one way to be strong. She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was still silver, but warm now, and her grip was firm. Thank you, Do-hyun, for everything. He squeezed her hand gently. You are welcome, Yira. It was the first time either of them had used the other's name without title or formality. It felt right. Outside, the ship continued its journey through the void. And far away on Valoria Prime, Yira's message was about to shake the foundations of an empire. In the weeks that followed Yira's message to her father, the ship became a strange place. News of the princess and the human spread through both the Valorian crew and the human crew like fire. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone watched. Some Valorians began to look at humans differently. Not with respect exactly, but with curiosity. If human blood could save a dying princess, what else might humans be capable of? Others grew colder. They saw Yira as a traitor to her race, contaminated beyond saving. They whispered that she should have been allowed to die with dignity rather than be kept alive by primitive blood. Yira ignored them all. She had more important things to focus on. Her body continued to change. Every day brought new discoveries. She could run now without tiring, her human-enhanced cardiovascular system pumping blood with efficiency no Valorian had ever experienced. Her reflexes were faster, her senses sharper. Small cuts healed in hours instead of days. She began testing her limits in private. She would exercise until her muscles burned, then watch in amazement as the soreness faded within minutes. She would stay awake for days, then recover with a few hours of sleep. Her body had become a machine built for survival, but physical changes were not the only ones. She found herself thinking differently too, feeling differently. Valorians were taught to suppress emotion. They lived for centuries and strong feelings were seen as a young person's weakness. something to outgrow. Yura had learned this lesson well. She rarely laughed, rarely cried, rarely felt anything deeply. Now emotions came easier. She felt joy watching the stars at night. She felt anger when she heard the whispered insults. She felt gratitude when she saw Do-hyun, and something else she could not name. Was this what it meant to be human? To feel everything so intensely? She sought Do-hyun out more and more often. At first their conversations were practical. She asked about human biology, about what was happening inside her. He explained what he could, admitted what he did not know, and helped her understand her new self. But slowly the conversations changed. They began talking about other things, their histories, their fears, their hopes. Do-hyun told her about Earth, about blue skies and green forests and oceans that stretched to the horizon, about cities that never slept and small villages where everyone knew each other's names, about the wars his species had fought and the peace they were still learning to keep. Humans are messy, he admitted one evening. They sat in a quiet corner of the ship's garden dome, surrounded by plants from both worlds. We fight too much. We hold grudges. We make the same mistakes over and over. That sounds exhausting, Yura said. It is, but it is also what pushes us forward. We are never satisfied, never content. We always want more, do more, be more. Valorians are the opposite. We value stability, tradition, things that have worked for thousands of years. And how is that working out? Yura smiled. I am sitting here with human blood in my veins, talking to a man my people consider a primitive. You tell me. Do-hyun laughed. It was a good sound, warm and unguarded. In return, Yura told him about Valoria, about crystal cities that touch the clouds and ancient temples carved into mountains, about her childhood in the palace, surrounded by servants and tutors and guards, never alone but always lonely. I was born to be traded, she said quietly. My older sisters will inherit power. My role was to be married to whoever offered the best political advantage, a piece on a game board. That sounds terrible. It was not terrible exactly. It was just empty. I knew from childhood that my life would never be my own. Every decision made for me, every path chosen by others. She looked at her hands, turning them over slowly. When I was dying on that floor, bleeding out, I felt almost relieved. At least death would be my own. No one could take it from me or trade it away. Do-hyun reached out and took her hand. His skin was warm against hers. And now? Now I do not know what I am. Not the princess I was raised to be. Not fully Valorian anymore, but also not human. Something new. Something without a name. Does that scare you? Yura thought about the question seriously. It should, but no. For the first time in my life, I feel free. No one knows what I am supposed to be. No one has written rules for someone like me. I get to decide. That is the most human thing you have said yet, Do-hyun told her with a smile. Torek watched all of this with growing concern. He saw the way Yura looked at the human. He saw the way she smiled more, laughed more, burned brighter. The cold, careful princess he had sworn to protect was disappearing, replaced by someone he did not recognize. One night he confronted Do-hyun alone. You are changing her, Torek said. His hand rested on his blade, not threatening but not far from it either. She is changing herself, Do-hyun replied calmly. I just gave her the blood. What she does with it is her choice. You do not understand what you have done. She was to be married to the High Prince of the Eastern Reach. That alliance would have secured peace for generations. Now that marriage is impossible. No Valorian noble will take a contaminated bride. Then maybe she should not be traded like property. Torek's eyes flashed with anger. You know nothing of our ways. I know that forcing someone into a life they do not want is wrong. Humans learn that lesson the hard way. Maybe Valorians should too. For a long moment, Torek said nothing. His face showed a battle between duty and doubt. I have protected her since she was a child, he said finally. I would die for her without hesitation. But this path she is walking leads somewhere I cannot follow. Then trust her to walk it alone, Do-hyun said. Or better yet, walk beside her. She needs people who support her, not people who want to cage her. Torek stared at him. Then slowly, something in his expression shifted. You truly care for her, he said. Not for her title or her power, just for her. Yes. Why? She is not even of your species. Do-Yun thought about the question. When I look at her, I do not see a Valorian princess. I see a person who was trapped her whole life and is finally learning to be free. How could I not care about that? Torek was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. My people are proud. We have always believed ourselves superior. But watching her change, watching her grow stronger and brighter and more alive, I begin to wonder if we were wrong. He looked at Do-Hyun with something almost like respect. Perhaps humans are not as primitive as we thought. Perhaps there is something in your blood, in your nature, that we have lost over our long years. Something worth learning. That sounds almost like a compliment, Do-Hyun said. Do not get used to it. But when Torek walked away, he did not look back with hatred. He looked back with something closer to acceptance. In the garden dome, Yira sat alone, thinking about the future. She did not know what waited for her on Valoria. She did not know if her father would accept her or reject her. She did not know if her people would see her as a miracle or a monster. But for the first time in her 200 years, she was not afraid. She had something now that she had never had before. Not just strength or power or enhanced senses. She had choice, and that was worth more than any kingdom. The assassin came on a quiet night when most of the ship was sleeping. Yira was in her chambers, reading reports from Valoria Prime. The political situation was deteriorating. Her message refusing purification had caused an uproar. Factions were forming. Some supported her right to live as she chose. Others demanded she be brought home in chains. One faction had decided to solve the problem more permanently. She heard the footsteps before the door opened. Soft steps, carefully placed, almost silent, but not silent enough for her enhanced hearing. She was on her feet before the door slid open. The assassin entered, dressed in black, face covered, blade already drawn. He moved fast, faster than any normal Valorian, enhanced with combat drugs that pushed his body beyond natural limits. But Yira was faster. She caught his wrist as the blade swept toward her throat. The impact would have broken a normal Valorian's arm. Her new bones held. She twisted, using his momentum against him, and threw him across the room. He crashed into the wall and was up again instantly. He pulled a second blade and attacked. This time, he did not rely on surprise. For 30 seconds, they fought in the darkness of her chamber. The assassin was trained, deadly, enhanced. He had killed dozens of targets before. He had never failed. He failed now. Yira's human-enhanced reflexes let her see his attacks before they fully formed. Her improved strength let her block blows that should have overwhelmed her. Her accelerated healing closed the small cuts she received almost as fast as he made them. She heard his heartbeat racing, smelled the fierce sweat breaking through his confidence. He was realizing that his target was not what he expected. In the end, she caught both his wrists and held them. He struggled, but she was stronger. She looked into his masked eyes. "Who sent you?" she asked calmly. He did not answer. Instead, he bit down on something hidden in his mouth. Poison. A true believer, unwilling to be captured and questioned. He was dead in seconds. Yira stood over his body, breathing hard. Not from exhaustion, but from the rush of adrenaline, the unfamiliar thrill of combat. Part of her was horrified. She had never fought for her life before. She had never been close to killing someone. Another part of her felt alive in a way she had never experienced. Was this what it meant to be human? To find life most vivid when it was most threatened? The door burst open. Torek charged in, blade drawn, followed by 3 guards. They froze when they saw the princess standing over a dead body, unharmed. "What happened?" Torek demanded. "Assassin, I handled it." Torek stared at the body, then at Yira. His expression was complex. "You handled it." "Yes, alone." "He did not give me much choice." She stepped back and let the guards examine the body. They removed the mask, revealing a face Torek recognized, a junior officer from the Emperor's fleet. Young, devoted, from a family known for extreme, traditionalist views. "This was organized," Torek said grimly. "Someone with authority sent him, someone high in the council." "I suspected as much," Yura said. My refusal to submit to purification made me a target. They cannot allow a contaminated princess to influence policy or produce heirs. We need to find out who is behind this. I have a better idea. We let them come to us. The news of the assassination attempt spread quickly, but the story that spread was carefully controlled. Instead of a failed attack, it became a test of Yira's new abilities. She had fought off an assassin single-handedly. She was no longer a fragile princess to be protected. She was something else entirely. The faction that had sent the assassin grew nervous. Their first move had failed. Their agent was dead, and now attention was focusing on traditionalist elements in the council. They decided to make a bigger move. 3 days later, Yira received an invitation to dine with Admiral Garen, the commander of the diplomatic fleet's military escort. He was a respected officer, a hero of ancient wars, and supposedly neutral in the political conflict. Yira knew it was a trap. So did Torek. So did Do-hyun, who had been briefed on the situation. "Do not go," Do-hyun said. They stood together in the garden dome, speaking quietly. "This is obviously an ambush." "Of course it is," Yira agreed. "That is why I must go." "That makes no sense. If I hide, I look weak. If I refuse the invitation, I look afraid. But if I walk into their trap and walk out again, I prove that I cannot be killed so easily." Do-hyun shook his head. "You are not invincible, Yira. Enhanced, yes. Stronger, faster, tougher, but you can still die. Everyone can die. The question is how you choose to live." She touched his face gently. Through her enhanced senses, she could feel his worry, almost taste it in the air. "I will be careful," she promised, "but I will not hide from them. That is not who I am anymore." Do-hyun caught her hand and held it. "Then I am coming with you." "They will try to kill you too." "Probably. You are not enhanced. You are just a human medic. A human medic who has already almost died saving your life once. What is one more time?" Yira laughed despite herself. "You are very stubborn, Kang Do-hyun. So I have been told." They went to Admiral Garen's ship together. Torek insisted on coming as well, along with 2 of his most trusted guards. It was not enough protection if things went badly, but too many guards would have seemed like an accusation. The dinner was tense. Admiral Garen was polite, charming, full of compliments about Yira's miraculous recovery. He asked careful questions about her new abilities. He expressed concern about her health. And beneath the table, Yira heard his heart racing with barely concealed hatred. The attack came after dessert. Guards burst into the room, overwhelming Torek's men. Garen himself drew a weapon, some kind of energy device Yira had never seen before. "Forgive me, Prince M," he said, not sounding sorry at all. "But you are an abomination that cannot be allowed to exist. The purity of our race must be preserved." He fired. Yira moved faster than she ever had before. She pushed Do-hyun aside, taking the blast herself. The energy burned through her shoulder, pain like nothing she had felt since the original accident. But she did not fall. She did not die. Her hybrid blood carried the shock, dispersed the damage, began healing immediately. She reached Garen before he could fire again and knocked the weapon from his hand. "Purity," she said, her voice cold. "You would kill your own princess for purity. You are not our princess anymore. You are a monster wearing her face." Behind them, the fight continued. Torek had freed himself and was cutting down Garen's guards. Do-hyun had grabbed a weapon and was providing cover fire, moving with a soldier's instincts despite his medic training. Then Torek did something unexpected. He fought his way to Do-hyun's side and stood back with him, protecting the human as fiercely as he would protect Yira. The fight ended when Yira's reinforcements arrived, called by emergency beacon. Garen's men were captured or killed. The admiral himself was taken into custody, still screaming about contamination and purity. In the aftermath, as medical teams treated the wounded, Yira found Torek and Do-hyun sitting together. Both were bleeding from minor wounds. Both looked exhausted. "You fought well," Torek said to Do-hyun. There was no hostility in his voice. "For a human." "You too," Do-hyun replied. "For a Valorian." They looked at each other. Something had changed between them. Not friendship exactly, but not hatred anymore either. Yira smiled despite her own pain. Her shoulder was already healing. new flesh growing over the burn. "We have proof now," she said. Garen was connected to the highest levels of the traditionalist faction. This assassination attempt came from the Emperor's own council. "Your father cannot ignore this," Torek agreed. "He will have to act." "Yes," Yura said, "he will. And when he does, everything will change." She looked at her two protectors, human and Valorian, standing together. "Everything already has." The throne room of Valoria Prime was vast and ancient. Crystal pillars stretched toward a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Light filtered through stained windows that told stories of conquests and treaties, wars and peace. Emperor Solon sat upon the crystal throne, his silver face unreadable, his violet eyes watching as his daughter walked toward him. Yura moved differently now. The Emperor could see it clearly. She had always walked carefully, delicately, like something that might break. Now she walked like someone who knew she would not break. Her posture was straight, her steps confident, her gaze steady. Behind her came the human, Kang Do-hyun. The council had tried to forbid his presence, but Yura had insisted. Where she went, he went. They were bound now by blood and by choice. Torek walked beside them, his hand near his blade, ready for any threat. The throne room was full of nobles and officers, many of whom had secretly supported Admiral Garen's assassination attempt. Any of them might try again, but none moved. They watched with a mixture of fear and fascination as the princess approached the throne. "Daughter," Emperor Solon said. His voice was deep, carrying the weight of 3,000 years. "You have caused quite a storm. I apologize for the disruption, father, but I will not apologize for living. No, I would not expect you to." He stood from his throne and descended the crystal steps. The court held its breath. The emperor rarely left his seat during formal audiences. It was a sign of either great honor or great judgment. He stopped before Yura and looked at her closely. This close, he could see the changes. The warmth beneath her silver skin, the amber flecks in her violet eyes, the way she held herself like someone who had discovered strength she never knew she possessed. "You are different," he said quietly. "Yes, the human blood has changed you, made you stronger, faster, more resilient. Yes, my advisors tell me this is contamination, an abomination, that you should be purified or quarantined or killed." Ira met his eyes without flinching. "And what do you believe, father?" The emperor was silent for a long moment. The entire court waited. "I believe," he said finally, "that I sent a fragile daughter on a diplomatic mission, a girl who had never faced danger, never made her own choices, never been anything except what others wanted her to be." He reached out and touched her face, his ancient fingers gentle on her warm cheek. "And I received a woman who survived death, defeated assassins, and had the courage to defy the entire empire rather than submit to destruction. I received someone I am proud to call my daughter." Yura felt tears forming in her new eyes. She had not expected this. She had prepared for battle, for argument, for the fight of her life. She had not prepared for acceptance. "Father, the traditionalist faction has been exposed," Solon continued, his voice growing louder for the court to hear. "Admiral Garen and his supporters conspired to murder a member of the imperial family. Their treason will be punished, but more than that, their thinking will be examined." He turned to face the assembled nobles. Many looked uncomfortable, some looked afraid. "For too long, we have believed ourselves superior. We have looked at other species as lesser beings, primitives not worthy of our attention. We have been proud and blind." He gestured to Do-hyun. "This human saved my daughter's life. He gave his own blood, nearly died in the process, asked nothing in return. He showed more honor and courage than many Valorians I have known." The court murmured. Such words about a human were unprecedented. Princess Yura is changed. Yes, she carries human blood. Yes, but she is also stronger, faster, more resilient than any Valorian in history. If this is contamination, then perhaps contamination is not the curse we believed. He returned to his throne and sat. "I propose a new initiative, medical cooperation between humans and Valorians, research into how our two species might help each other. Not conquest, not domination, partnership." The council erupted in argument. Some praised the emperor's wisdom, Others warned of chaos and corruption. The debate would last for days, but the decision had been made. The emperor had spoken. Yira bowed to her father, then turned and walked from the throne room with Do-hyun and Torek beside her. They did not stop until they reached a private balcony overlooking the crystal city below. That went better than expected, Do-hyun said. My father is many things, but he is not stupid. He sees that change is coming, whether we want it or not. Better to lead it than fight it. And you? What will you do now? Yira looked out at the city of her birth. She had spent 200 years here, trapped in palaces and protocols, never really living. Now the whole universe waited before her. The Medical Cooperation Initiative will need leadership, she said. Someone who understands both sides. Someone with human blood in Valorian veins. You want to lead it? I want to make sure it works. Too many of my people still see humans as primitives. Too many of your people see us as cold and arrogant. We need bridges, not walls. She turned to face Do-hyun. Through her enhanced senses, she could read him completely now. His steady heartbeat, his calm breathing, the warmth of his body, the genuine caring in his eyes. I want you to stay, she said, as the first human medical liaison to Valoria, if you are willing. That sounds like it could be dangerous. Almost certainly. And complicated. Extremely. And people will talk. A human working so closely with a Valorian princess? Let them talk. Do-hyun smiled. Then yes, I will stay. Torek cleared his throat. I suppose this means I must learn to tolerate humans. You already saved one, Yira reminded him, in the fight against Garen's men. You protected Do-hyun with your own body. A moment of weakness. It will not happen again. But there was no anger in his voice, only the beginning of acceptance. The three of them stood together on the balcony as the sun set over Valoria Prime. Silver light faded to purple, then to deep blue. The first stars appeared, distant suns around which other species lived and struggled and dreamed. This is just the beginning, Yira said softly. Humans and Valorians working together, learning from each other, growing stronger because of our differences, not despite them. It will not be easy, Do-hyun said. There will be resistance, fear, hatred. Yes, but there will also be hope. That is what your blood gave me, Do-hyun. Not just strength or speed or healing. Hope. The belief that things can change if we are brave enough to change them. She took his hand. Her skin was silver and warm. His was brown and warm. Two colors, two species, one choice. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me when no one else did. Thank you for letting me try. Behind them, Torek smiled slightly. He would never admit it, but watching these two, human and Valorian, standing together, gave him hope too. Perhaps the old hatreds could end. Perhaps something new could be built. Perhaps humans were not so primitive after all. Far across the galaxy, on a blue planet called Earth, news spread of the princess and the medic. People heard about human blood saving an alien life, about a transformation that science could not explain, about the beginning of something new between the stars. Some feared what it meant, others celebrated, but everyone agreed that the universe had changed forever on the day a simple medic offered his blood to a dying princess. It was not a cure that saved her. It was compassion. It was courage. It was the stubborn human refusal to let someone die without fighting for them. And in the end, that was worth more than all the technology of 1,000 worlds. The stars watched in silence as a new chapter began. They had seen many things across the ages: wars and peace, extinction and evolution, species rising and falling like waves. But they had never seen anything quite like this. They wondered what would come next. So did everyone else.